Hello, my dear gardening friends. I feel accomplished today. I built my own arch. And in case some of you don't know if they can do it, believe me, if I did it with very small carpenter skills, I think you can do it too. So today in this video, I'm going to show you how I did it with my own hands. I still can't believe it, but I like what I created. Stay tuned. The idea of building a new arch was in my head for a while. I contemplated for some time buying already pre-made arch and installing it in my yard myself. After looking around, I decided that the better option would be to build my rose arch myself. This area hosted an old, dilapidated arch, which was serving no purpose, was too narrow to hold a climbing rose, and was falling apart. We inherited this arch with the house, and it was more than 10 years old. Time for an upgrade. Instead of taking it piece by piece, I decided to cut it up. It was quite quick, and bring all the pieces to the garbage transfer station in our town. Since all the wood was quite rotten, taking out wooden pieces was easy, although it was a workout for me. My clematis had to be taken away from the arch. It never flourished there due to squirrels damaging stems. After the project is complete, I will replant my clematis somewhere else in my garden. But for now, they have to be taken out, each stem, and lay rest on the ground. The space looks quite bare and messy right now. Happy boxwoods are growing. Some of them didn't make it through the first winter, and some need to be replanted to suit the new plan in this corner of my garden. At the beginning, I wanted to build the arch from natural wood. But after thinking how vigorous and heavy New Dawn rose is, I decided that the base of the arch has to be from treated wood. I want my arch to last a long time and not to fall apart under the weight of the beautiful mature rose. You would be surprised what you can find under the surface of the soil. In my case, I found some good old bricks. They will be reused in my garden. The next step was to remove Dr. Huey rose. Dr. Huey is used on many roses in northern US as a rootstock. It is very vigorous and very thickish. If your beautiful rose, if your beautiful pink rose suddenly turn red, know that the rootstock of your grafted rose is trying to take over. So in this case, Dr. Huey has to go. Little flowers will be happily replanted and will not even notice the calamity around them. Just look at those roots, how big and vigorous they are. Quite a lot of digging for me. Soil on this part of the garden was surprisingly very soft, and I didn't notice any big stones so far. All right, out it goes. Look at that root. Strong and vigorous. That's Dr. Huey for you. I bought 4 10 feet long, 3 meters, pressure-treated ground contact southern pine timber. It is 4 inches by 4 inches wide. For the top, I purchased an 8-foot landscape timber. I'm going to attach them together to make a side frame for my future arch. I'm using exterior grade screws in the lengths to connect 2 pieces of timber together, so 3 screws go into each connection. I made sure that I repeated each step on 2 wooden frames. Rose archers, especially big ones, which have to carry big climbing or rambling roses on them, have to be very sturdy and be well anchored in the ground. The reason I went for 10 feet long poles is that I'm going to put them 3 feet deep. We are talking a meter deep into the ground. There will be a lot of digging for me, I know, but weather is at my side. It is not too hot or not too cold. Side planks will stabilize the arch. Additional support to make sure that my arch keeps the width all the way down to the ground. As you can see, this project is not for a single day, at least for me. Now is the time to create those deep holes for the arch to go in. I have to dig 4 holes, and the biggest question is, will I hit a huge stone on the way down? I was very lucky on the left side. I didn't hit any single stone, and excavating soil was quite easy and quick. Pine branches have to be moved away. I'm keeping them for now to see how they will look together with the arch, and will decide what to do with them later. Originally, I was planning to remove those low branches away, but now I want to see how they look with the arch. It didn't take me long to reach 40 inches deep holes. As you can see, the soil coming out is pretty smooth, and I didn't hit a single big stone, just brown soil from deep down. Those are really deep holes. Okay, here we go. 40 inches down. Here I am, really not sure if I can lift this wooden panel myself, but with careful planning and slow, well-calculated movements, I have to be careful to save those baby boxwoods, I managed to put my arch in. This was the most stressful part of the job. Gosh, that thing was heavy. The treated wood is still wet, and it is heavy. I did it. It's actually looking quite straight. Yes. I'm trying to adjust vertical position and make it as close to 90 degrees as possible. My arch is not going to be symmetrical. It won't form a rectangle, 90-degree rectangle. I wanted to have the front of the arch slightly more open than the back, so my arch, the front panel, would be wider than the back panel. The digging of the last 2 holes was more difficult. There were many stones, and I really had a workout trying to pick those stones from the long depths and bring them up. Ground was very compacted there too. But you know what? I should be happy that I didn't meet any big stones there. Again, it was a workout. Exhausted. Now is the time to attach the top planks. The procedure is the same. 3 screws into each connection. Nice and easy. I made sure that my eyes were well protected from any possible particles flying through the air. There is a mulberry tree growing on our property, and it is getting to be too big, shading another pergola we have, and making neighboring yew tree opening up its canopy. So I went ahead this spring and I cut some branches out of that tree. So I'm going to use those branches to make this arch somewhat of an artistic creation. Yes, here I am having a little bit of fun time. Beautiful new dawn rose is coming into my garden. Looks like I'm in a small minority of gardeners who did not receive their roses yet. I have a feeling that one day I will open my door and I will see all my roses arriving at the same time. Next day after that, I will be turning into a big mole, digging through tons of soil and trying to plant all my roses at the same time. Meanwhile, here I am, trying to imagine the top of the arch. I took several long branches, attached them together, and will try to put them in some sort of a fashion on my arch. I love how during the creative process, I don't necessarily see all the steps, just know the main idea which I want to achieve, and the rest of the decisions are happening as the project starts to emerge. Mistakes are turned into assets and are not bad at all. This looks like a big nest. It needs to rest on something. I was trying to figure out how to do this thing. Here I constructed some sort of a support. I understand that these branches are not long-lived, maybe 3 years the most, and then they will start falling apart. Not a biggie. By that time, arch will be covered with rose foliage and blooms, and strong foundation will stand for many years and will support that beautiful rose. Here I had plenty of branches to play with. Again, I am attaching them with exterior screws. Those mulberry branches are very twiggy. I have to cut all the little branches off to make sure that my idea is clearly visible and there is not just a bird nest on top of my arch. Some extra branches, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with them. All right, looking good. Taking all the branches away, the little guys. These branches are going to be used on the side. And here we have duck feet. The job of placing sticks for them to look harmoniously together and form some sort of artistic presence is quite fun and engaging for me. Middle plank holds all the sticks together and I attach them with the help of screws. Here I am trying to visualize the branch, what to trim and what to keep. Every year, the biggest project in my garden is usually happening in spring, when I'm very eager to get out in my garden and be among my plants, sun and fresh air. This year's biggest project, for sure, is my handmade arch. Branches are used very quickly, and I like the fact that I reuse garden waste and put it back to have a second life in my garden. Here all the little guys have to be taken off, extra small branches trimmed off, and the arch is slowly taking shape. Cutting unnecessary things away. I'm having difficulties putting all the branches together on the top. It is very congested there, and I feel like a big bird building a nest there. I know it doesn't look pretty right now, but it is slowly taking shape. This side is finished. The top is almost done. I'm going to trim all the side shoots, and there are plenty of them. As for the color of the treated wood, I didn't want this project to be about the arch, but about the rows on it. Treated wood does age with time. It can take several years for it to become totally aged gray. I really don't want to wait for such a long time, so I have a plan. The plan is to paint my arch in some sort of a gray semi-transparent stain to bring it as close to an aged look as possible. And then the rose new dawn with prolific blooms will be the star of the show, as it should be. Instead of trimming those branches, I'm bending them and trying to form some sort of a swaying effect on the top of my arch. Branches are fresh and very flexible. I wouldn't be able to do this project with old wood. It will simply snap and won't bend. I like the color of those branches as well. My arch is built. I must say that I felt insecure at the beginning of this project. My carpenter skills are not great. There were plenty of video talks with my father, who lives in Ukraine. He is an engineer himself, and he gave me some confidence and good directions on how to approach this project. I used almost all the sticks from the cut mulberry branches. Garden is a mess right now. I call it a creative mess. Now is the time to paint my arch. I decided to go with a semi-transparent stain. It is very forgiving on imperfections. The stain name is Sea Gray. It has some green in it. If I would have to choose my paint again, I would go for slate color. But the difference is minimal and not very important. I wanted to finish my arch with some sort of a finial at the top. I mentioned in my previous videos that I wanted birdhouses on top. Well, I tried those to put them on top. They didn't really look organic there, so I gave that idea up. And instead, I went with, I wanted to go with a round ball. Home Depot was out of round finials, so I found these two unfinished furniture legs, put them together. They're going to be my top finial, and the gray stain will make them very harmonious looking on top. It dries out pretty fast. So here we are, the old arch. The mistake I made, I should have painted my arch before I installed the branches, but at that time I really didn't want, if I wanted to paint branches as well. Last minute I decided that there would be an interesting play between branches and painted wood, so I left branches unpainted. So here we are, the old arch, which was falling apart and didn't really have any purpose in my garden, and the new one. I like the new one so much better. The stain dried up, and now my yellow fresh timber looks a bit more aged. Just imagine the green foliage of new dawn rose on it with fresh pink blossoms. It will be all about that rose. Arch will look artistic, but will not take the show. The show belongs to the rose. So I hope this video was helpful. There is a lot of mess going on right now in this flower bed, but that's a job for next day. I'm going to reorganize all this area here, and my beautiful rose, New Dawn, is coming to be planted on both sides. At the beginning I thought that I would plant just one rose and then propagate another one, but I actually went for two New Dawns, and one is own root and another would be grafted. So it will be interesting for me to see how both roses will behave in the same location. So, happy gardening! I will see you next time.